Hey guys, David Johnson again. I'm here doing 1 John chapter 5. This is the first part of a four-part series on chapter 5. I'm starting in verse 1, reading through verse 4. I'm reading out of the King James Version. I'm cross-referencing with the New American Standard Version. Go ahead and start turning in your Bibles to chapter 5. If you don't have a Bible, I highly encourage BibleGateway.com. They have every every English translation you can think of, probably. There's several foreign translations as well if you don't have English. I should probably get a get a contract with them as much as I plug their site. But seriously though, I don't have any something like that. It's just a really good site for translations and whatnot. We're going to go ahead and start with verse 1 through 4. And I highly do encourage cross-referencing, and you're going to see why. Just in these first couple, especially in this chapter, for cross-referencing, for understanding's sake. The King James Version is not the most easy to understand version. It's brought a lot of controversy on what a specific word or passage means, especially when it's 400 years old and it's translating things that are a good, at that time, 1600, written 1600 years before that. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump on in. Reading from King James Version, verse 1 of chapter 5, 1 John. Whosoever believeth that Jesus is the Christ is born of God. And every one that loveth him that begat loveth him also that is begotten of him. By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and keep his commandments. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world. And this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Okay. What we've got going on here in verse 1, this verse alone proves we need to look at the Bible from at least two translations. What John is saying here is whoever believes Jesus is the Christ is born of God. And whoever loves the Father loves the child born from him or of him. One of the big faults of the King James, like I said earlier, is it's from a time where these and thous were used, and we are no longer using those today. Cross-reference them with a common version such as New King James, where they take, at the very least, they take the these and thous out, or a New American Standard for modern accuracy. I highly recommend that. Now in verse 2, we see that we know love. There's that love again, like we've said all the way through this book. It's right there at the very forefront of this. We know love, or we know we love, excuse me, the children of God when right there in Matthew 23, 37 to 40, the greatest commandment, when Jesus was asked, when he said to them, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. And this is the great and foremost commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend the whole law and the prophets." Like I was saying, these are the greatest of the commandments listed by Jesus, who was tried again and again to be tricked by the Pharisees. And no, really, they're not grievous if we have the capability to love. If we can just love, people on, just love our brothers, and our Christian brothers, they're really not that hard to do or grievous to do. Most people nowadays attribute grievous to that guy and that ugly robot guy in Star Wars. But generally, they're not generally grievous. That's funny. They're not hard to do. Love is not a hard concept to grasp unless you yourself are really full of hate. This capacity to love is not a hard idea. to some people it's such an alien concept, and we need to break down those walls. People set up these types of walls, and we need to break it down with the power of love. And in verse 3 and 4 here, it takes time before we head to 3 and 4. Sometimes it's just going to take time. And I don't... we've been hitting on this the entire time, this entire book. You can almost call it the love book, really, 1 John. Sometimes it's called the love chapters. This whole book is about love, the idea of unconditional love towards your brothers and towards God, because that's how His love is going to shine in you, by giving that love first to Him. That's how His love can reside in you, by showing God that you're willing to love Him. Now in verse 3 and 4 here, for this is the love of God, that we keep His commandments, and commandments are not grievous. For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Where's that faith? Acting upon this knowledge and this hope that we have in God. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the action of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is faith is a verb. It's an action, not just sitting around twiddling our thumbs on something. We got to act on this hope in God that He sent for us through Jesus. I prefer always the term reborn of God here, because our old self, the Adamic carnal nature that we had before Jesus came and our salvation was achieved through Him, is washed away, like we've touched on in several, I think pretty much every one of the chapters, every one of the previous 4 chapters in this study in 1 John. We now have the power to overcome the world and the trials of the devil through the strength of this faith, provided we act upon it, and belief in God and the sacrifice His Son Jesus was willing to make for us. However, it's a two-way street. Jesus was willing to show His unconditional love for us. Now we've got to show that unconditional, love back to Him and through our brothers as well. Pardon me, to get a better seat here. That's pretty much summing up this first part of 1 John chapter 5 here, verses 1 through 4. I hope you stick around for the rest, and God bless.